is to review. I have asked Mr. Bob Edstrom, who audits utilities, to be here by the office tomorrow. We'll gladly get you a copy of this to review. I have asked Mr. Bob Edstrom, who audits utilities, to be here and answer any questions that the council might have. I know we had a little rate increase in January, and some may ask why we're back this soon. And Mr. Edstrom's here.
You want me to get up and
Would you
go
take the
through
podium?
that?
Yeah, would you take the podium if any of the council has a question? And while Mr. Edstrom's coming, if the audience, if you have questions or comments, if you'll call my office tomorrow, we'll gladly sit down. If you want to speak to the council, feel free to do so after the meeting. I'll be happy to put you on the agenda for the next meeting. Does the council have any questions for Mr. Edstrom? Bob, you want to tell us how we, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask him to, if he will, just kind of paint a picture for the public. I want the public to be well informed as well as myself.
Well, I did an analysis, which I've given to the council members, and basically what I did was take the expenses for 2010, and I subtracted from it the non-cash portion of those expenses, which is depreciation. And basically, that's the main thing. And then I added the other cash expenditures that the system has that are not expensed under the normal operating expenses. And that includes your total bond payment, principal and interest. The expenses that I started with did not include interest, didn't have interest expense in it. So I added the existing bond payments and then the projected bond payments. And then talked to Russell and Robert, and they gave me an idea as to what they needed on a yearly basis for replacing equipment and assets as they wore down in the system. And this, I think, has been the critical part of the formula that was omitted. I think in the past, the things were given to the bond people who did a good job, and they said, this is how much the rates need to be for us to accept these bonds. Well, that just gave you enough money to pay your operating expenses and the bonds, and didn't give the system any funds for replacement of equipment that wears out. You've got each system has 4 or 5 trucks. One a year needs to be systematically replaced, and they're usually by used trucks at that. I mean, I didn't see anything extravagant in the expenditures of the system. The key part was there was nothing there for them to accumulate funds to make these replacements. You've got about $38 million worth of property and equipment in the two systems. That's both treatment plants and all the other, that's distribution mains, the whole bit. And you're going to have some wear and tear there. You can't just say, okay, I spent $38 million 20 years ago, and now I'm going to not have any replacement parts on it. So I added that to it. We added a variance factor. All the bonds require that you have to put 2% of your gross revenues aside in a depreciation fund. I added that to it, and we were about $619,000 a year short in coming up with the funds needed to make your cash payments. And we hashed it over, went over it all, ended up going to a base rate of $10 and $2.75 as was put in the ordinance per thousand. After the first 1,000 is what was required, and that gave you a little bit more money than what we projected. But the problem with this whole thing is you've got so many fixed costs buying $200,000 worth of water, or it's not, you've still got to have this many employees reading meters, you've got to have this many employees working at the treatment plants. You're a high fixed cost area. So if we lose an industry that's been giving us a lot of money, or if we simply have a wet year can have a drastic impact on your revenues. So you don't want to say, okay, I'm going to get a rate that just barely covers you. You want to have something there that'll take you through thick and thin. And that's what the 275, that's what this rate does. Is that too much, Russell? Robert, is that? Yeah.
Well, that was, no, are you saying basically that we're trying to play catch up now?
Well, it's not really, James, in a way, yes, but not really. What we're saying now is we're realizing, okay, we've got to set this rate so that we can have enough funds to not only pay our everyday operating expenses, but to have some money for capital replacement. And that figure was, on the water system, it was about $334,000 a year, and on the sewer, it was $125,000. Total, that's only $460,000 a year. Now, that's just over 1% of your total plant cost, which is not much. They're hoping that they can get by on that. If we get the rate increase and we have a dry year and we have plenty of funds come in, things will hopefully build up. But there's just not a lot of slush in this.
Okay. I'm just asking a question. No. The rate increase that we just had was higher than normal due to the fact that we had a wet year, right? Is that not right?
The last rate increase was based on 2009 usage, and you're right, that was a wet year.
And it was more than usual. Okay, so how have we've been handling it every 2 years to pick up, to provide the monies for the depreciation and everything?
No, I think since I've been doing water audit, the waters and sewer, they've been losing money. But in the past, it was, and I never really got involved in the rate setting. And in the past, that was kind of left up to the bond people with the mistaken idea, like I said, that they were setting it for total operating when they really weren't. And so, and they took, you only had a rate increase when you had a bond come up.
Yeah.
And I think, it's my advice that we try to be a little more proactive and look at this each year and see where our expenses are and what our needs are, and go from there.
So it's basically based on productivity.
Yeah.
Well, so what's the, is there a real rush as to having another rate increase right now since we just had one?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that, James. What the deal is, in order to get, we could go right now, we've got the funds, we've got the rate right now, according to the gurus in Little Rock, the bond people. We've got the present rate would fund $1 million bond payment, bond issuance. Now, that $1 million will get the west interceptor that the sewer system needs. However, the system also needs, what do you call that, the belt plant,
The plant needs belt press.
belt press. It needs about $2 million worth of work that when I was we got this $1 million bond coming up, what's next? We said, well, next year we probably need a $2 million bond. And the bond guy said, well, you know, we had, what, 3 million just a couple years ago, and then 1 million now, and 2 million. I mean, you're gonna spend another $35,000 to $40,000 in transaction fees, piecemealing these bonds, doing 1 million this year, 2 million next year. So I said to him, well, let's try and save the city some money and put this all together. Well, so they said, okay, great, and my schedule provided for everything. But the problem was, the work that's needed for this west interceptor has to be done this summer. And in order to get the bonds issued, in order for the work to be done this summer, that's why we've got to hurry up the reading. Now, you can wait. I mean, if you want to take 3 months to read the thing, that's fine, but you'll have to do just a 1 million bond now, and then you're going to have to wait, and then you have to pay $35,000 to $40,000 more in transaction fees to go get the bond, the $2 million bond next year. So it's kind of hard to understand, but that's basically what they're saying.
So, my next question is, now, I guess I want to understand, how is the rate increase going to be advantageous to, advancing our chances of getting the next two bond increases, or
We-
just after the one?
The bonds people will not, if they want to go ahead and issue the $3 million worth of bonds right now, they can't do that with the existing rates. They said the existing rate was not enough for that.
It's not enough to cover the bond payment.
Right. So they're saying that it would have to be increased, that the existing rate with the increase that we had in January would be enough to cover a $1 million bond, but not a $3 million bond.
So we could do a 1 million, then next year do a 2 million.
Right.
But what you're saying is that if we do that, it'll cost us an additional so many thousand dollars.
Yeah, 35, 40,000 is what the folks said. Now, those aren't my fees. Make that clear.
So the Andy's here.
Yeah, the Andes. No. That's the bond, we blame it on the bond people of Little Rock. They aren't here. Are they?
Does anybody else on the city council have anything for Mr. Estes?
But the, I don't know whether it's for Bob or be for Russell, but, you know, is that project James was talking about, or was on the west side of town, is that the one where the reduction in the sewer line is larger on one end and just down here to the truck stop?
Yes, sir.
And
Years
it goes
ago,
down to, what, 8 inch, from what, 12 to?
years ago, they put that business park in there, and they run that 12 inch all the way across the highway to an 8 inch. Why they didn't finish it on out, I have no idea. But for us to get anything of any size in that park, we're gonna have to have an increase in our line. That little lift station, pump station, that is at Western Hills, is at 95% capacity now. It was designed for Western Hills itself. Wasn't designed to take in, what it's taking in now. It's also taking in Chapin Lane and North Acre subdivision out there. Again, why they stopped at 12 inch and dumped into 8 inch, basically probably money. But this interceptor that we're proposing to put in will eliminate that problem from the business park to the wastewater plant.
Mainly, I mean, the business part, well, that's what I'm trying to make, that's mainly the one that,
That's the one that's going to benefit from it. Until we do something out there, there's no way that I can take that water from an industry into the business park.
and I got one other question, but, again, I'm just trying to, I don't fully understand all of it myself, I just want the public to be well informed, as they want to be, or can inform them, but, you know, if we fall, or did happen to fall underneath the health department's ruling, I don't really fully understand that, what have we not done, or what do we have to do to maintain control over our two systems, and not the health department take control over it?
The health department basically rules the water system, and the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality rules the wastewater. Although we have to go to the health department for approval on our plans. What is happening out there, this vacuum process I have, the process of biosolids or sludge is no longer keeping up with the plant. And it's just like a domino theory. If one thing in the plant goes down, then you go out of compliance in the other part of the plant. We're not processing as we should. Andy can give you a little more detail on that. It's costing me somewhere around $800 a day to run that plant, and it's not keeping up with the standards set forth by EPA and ADQ. In other words, we're not meeting, they give me specific limits that I have to meet monthly, and we're not keeping up with that.
Did all that just happen recently, and it's called something we did or did not do, or, again, I'm not trying to cast all the blame on this.
I'm not gonna cast any blame either, but, maybe this system that is processing the biosolids was good at one time. People that sold it to the city probably did not tell us the full truth. Years ago, and I don't know where it stands now, but we did have a lawsuit against these people. I don't know, Monty could tell you where that's at now. I think they went bankrupt and lost any way to get back.
But basically, we've got, as I understand, we've got two plants that came online after we went from Sparta, deep well water, to surface water, and which we had to have those. In 20 years of age, they've just got lots of wear and old antiquated equipment that we can't just go around the store and buy replacement parts.
We're having such a hard time now finding replacement parts for anything we have out there. One thing, the contractor that put the plant in, he bought material in Denmark, places like that, material that was no longer produced and was off the market at that time, but it was still, them parts were left on the shelf. So that's one of the reasons we got a lower price on building the plant.
I guess what I'm kind of boiling down to is that just whatever we decide that we've got to do, don't want to have to come back and do something like this again.
Well,
1 year or 6 months or a year. And
hopefully, this $2 million extra will put us back in the place that we need to be at the plant. And plus, this rate increase will provide the extra money for capital improvement, where we haven't been able to make it in the last 10 to 15 years. We will have the monies there to make capital improvement.
Also, I'm a little confused on keeping up with some of it here. You were talking about the 12-inch line going into the 8-inch line and stuff. Didn't we do a bond issue
Right.
with Andy? I saw all these drawings that that not covered under that?
That's covered under the first $1 million, that we, this last rate increase in January we had, that's what was supposed to cover that.
And that's what will cover that. The rate increase from January covers the $1 million in bonds that,
With the handle changing out that, I mean, all this work that's been going on around here, that's, seems to be dropped off. Are they still not gonna do the 12-inch line coming from, as I understand, Russian Hills over here?
Yes, sir.
but they have to sell another $1 million in bonds to do that. That's what the rate increase was for, so the rate would be in place to cover the
All
bonds.
covered to start with. Okay. I understand that the plant, that's some kind of compactor that makes cake out of the sludge
Right.
that you're talking about?
Right, you just
That's
basically
what-
grind it out, paste it,
Okay, but that unit needs to be replaced.
and without that unit operating, as I said, that's a good example, not processing enough sludge, my ammonium nitrogen, which is very low during this part of the year, 2.4 milligrams per month and 6 point on the 7-day average.
What are you doing with the excess now?
But what we
The
produce.
sludge, yeah.
Well,
Should I not have asked that question?
I'm doing what I need to do to take care of the problem.
Will it work on yours?
Russell, you can't take the fifth amendment.
Okay. Now, I'm not doing anything illegal. At one time,
Didn't suggest it.
ADQ gave us permission to dump our excess sludge into the pond out there. That pond, all that pond is used for is to hold excess water. Nothing discharges from that pond to the environment. And as I said, we had permission to put the excess sludge in there. But the problem with that is, you keep putting it in there, that pond not gonna be there anymore.
Will decrease the depth of it.
Andy, if I might clarify something for Mr. Callen, Mr. Moore. We approved the interceptor, is that what it's called on the west side?
West side interceptor.
Last year, but we didn't have the funding available.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what they're getting, this
Right.
first million. It wasn't available to us because of our financial.
Rate wasn't sufficient to cover the indemnity, so.
Well, I was just coming around. Yes. What account, Mr. Estrom said something about 600,000 shortfall? Who paid that?
That's projected. That's what you're going to have for projected shortfall this year. Which means that you've got 600,000, which is basically the 240 for the bond payment. And, well, actually, you have the 80 there, it'd be 160 of the 240, plus the 460,000 that they need to start making improvements and replacements. They wouldn't have it.
Well, I understood we're already operating at a loss. What account does that come out of?
Our reserve.
Actually, it's,
Our reserve. Well, we've lost money, 2009, 2010, we lost combined 1.2 million. And that's just either way our reserve, we basically have no money. We have some, it shows that, I explained
yeah.
it shows like 2 million, but we have to keep a certain amount in there to cover our bond payments.
You spent your retirement program.
But how much revenue will the rate increase generate per year?
Per year, the rate increase will generate about $1 million. Yeah, little over $1 million.
I'd like to make a comment. I think I can speak on behalf of all the council. The very last thing we would like to do is raise the water rates at all. I mean, I think that's a given. In fact, I think we all had to bite our cheeks a little
think Russell
Yeah.
and Andy.
There's a book that comes out, and it picked, it's like 250 water systems in the state, incorporated water systems, and the book comes out, and they publish, all the rates. And the thing I handed out to y'all earlier was, this was done for, last year, showed proposed and everything, but the current rate now is 1780, and that's what the rates we just had. The rate we're proposing now is up to $21. And that's the same, and that's based on 5,000 gallons of water a month. And that's about what an average home uses for their consumption, is 5,000 gallons. That's what the state averages for everybody. So, and basically the water and the sewer rates are the same rate, same minimum, same per thousand cost. So, for an average home using 5,000 gallons, they're paying $35.60 now. It'll go to $42. The increase is $6.40 for water and wastewater. And on the bottom there, you can see we're still ranked 96 out of 250 utilities as having the lowest water rates in the state. So, there's a lot more out there, a lot higher rates. And, but basically started when Bob was doing our audit there, we got to looking in 2009, both utilities, this is when he was doing it. 2009, the utilities lost, a net loss of $628,000. And when he did the 2010 audit, just got through, the utilities as a whole lost $574,000. So we lost $1.2 million out of our reserves in the last 2 years. And this year's, even with the rate increase that we had the first year, it's still projected we're going to have a major loss this year. Part of the reason is we lost a major industry here in town. That was a big user, and that was on water and wastewater. They did both sides of this. People are just not watering like they used to. Utilities usually, they'll make a little bit of money, you won't make a little bit of money in the off season, but you hope for that dry summer when you really have the rates come in. And that just benefits the water side. It doesn't do anything for the wastewater because that's who we're at. So, in '09, it was a bad wet year. Last year was about a normal year based on the last 5 years of what we've sold. And, but still, as a whole, on the sold part, in the last 10 years, the sales have gone down in town. I mean, it's a steady decrease. We lost population, the industry's cut back. So, we have went in and changed out some major meters, 2-inch to 6-inch meters, and we have recouped a lot of revenue. It's been lost over the years. But, we're recouping revenue on the meters, which are, income should go up, but their sales are going down, so they're about an even wash. So, we hit our reserve pretty hard. Like I said, we haven't been able to do any repairs or replacement at the water plants, wastewater plant, distribution, our equipment. I stated earlier, we have about 8 trucks, and 4 of them have mileage from 127 to 172,000 miles. So the repairs on these trucks are just equals up. We had $25,000 in equipment repairs last year just for the water. So we could have bought a truck and a half. So we're just way behind on doing improvements because we hadn't had any revenue coming in.
Robert, has there been any major improvements to your plant or Russell's plant since they were built?
Not to mine and not to wastewater either. Like I said, Russell's plant's about 3 years older than the water plant. No major improvements. And just on the water side, when you start building one, they'll tell you the life of your equipment in there will run 15 to 20 years. That's the media, that's the filter media. And the water plant is 19 years old, it's still 20 years old. So we're looking, anytime we'll have to start doing some major repairs. I've had to rewind some motors, which is normal. We've got an air compressor blower sold to nobody, they do their own rate structure. But, we did go to the flat rate, I know, I noticed that, and or as long as I've known, it's been a tier rate structure on water. The more you use, cheaper it is. Well, that's an old, outdated concept, you know, it's supposed to be that track industry. But we were selling water, last year, our water cost, the whole production cost of water was about $3.25 per thousand gallons. That's like everything, you get it from the lake or from the ground to the customer's house. We were selling to some of the wholesalers at $1, it averaged like $1.30. We were losing almost $2 every thousand gallons. And they're, one of them averaged 7 to 8 million a month. So, we've been losing revenue for quite a while. And this, almost everybody in the state, they use the flat rate. It's just, it's, the more, it's not right, the more you use it, cheaper it is. It costs the same amount of money to produce it to your house as it does to an industry. So,
Robert, are we gonna lose any, on the wholesale rate based on today's current cost?
now, and what it is, we're selling it, it's, like I said, it costs $3.25 per thousand to produce it. And the rate is $2.75, but we have that minimum bill. So, we're getting the $10 for each minimum bill goes in, offsets that. So the revenue will jump up above the $3.25. And if we can repair or replace some of our equipment, the cost should go down, because we're not repairing so much. So we should, our cost should go down some. Production costs.
Do we have like a schedule equipment replacement list, or when are the things scheduled to be replaced? Or is this going to run until
About 10 years ago. Now, we don't have a schedule or anything, because we hadn't had the revenue to replace it. We just run it until we had to replace it or fix it. And a lot of times to replace it, we just fix it, patch it, make it work. But hopefully with this new rate increase, we start building a reserve back up and build some cost in there to start replacing it. Russell and myself both will start sitting down and do a maintenance and replacement schedule for all the equipment. And even if you pass the rate right now, it's going to take a year to build them reserves up. Because, that 340,000 or whatever we can make, that's a year. It'll be a year from now before we'll have that reserve built up. So we still got to go at least 6 or 7 more months before we'll have any money coming in to build it up. So, but I'm scared to sit down and do the maintenance and replacement myself. It's going to be staggering. But we have to do it. We got a water plant, brings water to your house, and the wastewater will take it from your house. So we have to have that.
Is the personnel still about the same as what it was 5 years ago?
About the same. I was telling Bob, when I started almost 33 years ago in the water system. And we had 26 employees. Now we have 13. And back then, we didn't have a water plant. We had probably 1,000 less customers and a lot less distribution to maintain. So we had twice as many people back then, and all we did was, actually, we just had wells that pump, we put 4 into it. We didn't have any operating expense basically. But like I said, we got all that, we've improved so much, but we've got half the people. And a lot of our people, the majority, that's water, wastewater, and the whole city itself. Our employees are either at retirement age or retirement years. We have nobody young to come up and start taking our places. Of course, I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, but somebody's, somebody start looking at that.
Robert, why do we sell I take it that these wholesale customers are like some of these rural
Water system.
water systems? Why do we, I think some of them charge a pretty exorbitant amount to some degree. I guess my point is, why do we wholesale or discount them?
That was just,
That's almost a favor, but we don't need to be giving.
but the rate was set up, it was set up that, as, it was like we have now, it's $2.20 for the first 10,000 gallons. then it dropped to the next, maybe 90,000, it's, $1.95. And the more you use it, cheaper it got. So when you got to a 2+ million, it was only $1.10 per thousand after that. But that was the rate structure that it's always been. And the last, actually the last two rate increases that were passed, it only affected, well, I know the last one, passed this first year. The rate was only increased by people who use 10,000 gallons or less. The other rates did not go up. It was just residential that took.
Well, I don't see a problem with rating a little bit, cut out some of this discounted water if we're having a problem. What do they do, supplement Magnolia's got a big water system pump up there, do they buy in?
Now, we sell to Lakeside. Lakeside is our biggest water user down there. We sell to Walker Water System. We sell to Freehold, which is east of town.
Okay, if anybody's in here,
And then they sell, it goes through them and sells into Lisdale. We have a Mercy connection with Village and with Magnolia Roof Department.
Could I say something? No, sir, go ahead, Mr. Banks.
And, like I live on Lakeside, and me and my wife and my youngest son, we use about 6,000 gallons a month. And my bill's over $52 a month. That's just water. So, some reels are high. If it's an older reel system, they still have cheaper rates because they were put in so long
they make
ago.
money off of it, or can I tell?
Well, see, we have no control. Once we sell it to the rural people, that's all we do is sell to the meter. Whatever happens past that point is responsibility of the rural system there. So, this rate increase will affect the rural systems, but it's up to them to decide if they've got enough in their rates to cover it or if they have to go up. So, we have to take care of ourselves, and we can't basically be giving water away.
Yeah,
Either. So we'll have to at least break even on people like that.
So we're eliminating the tier system, and
It's gonna be a flat rate back to so the first minimum bill will give you the first 1,000, and and also on the, if you look at like the rural people, the elderly people, or fixed income people, they'll use 1,000, 2,000 gallons of water a month. So if they use 1,000 gallons, their bill's only gonna go up $1 a month. If they use 2,000, it's gonna go up $1.55 a month. Will be $3.10 by the water and sewer. So it's not really affecting. It's not gonna really hurt the elderly or the single residents.
My last point here, okay, we spoke about the city losing money. We've been losing money for a long time, right?
Right.
And it was my understanding, me and Andy had a discussion prior to the last rate increase. Now, the 12% increase was supposed to carry us until the next time that we need a rate increase, right?
Should have.
Should have. So, right now, we're not really losing money, but what we're trying to do is be proactive, get some money to be proactive for the next time.
Well, we're into the first quarter of this year, so we're already losing money. So.
That's standard, is that? No.
Well, you should at least break even. You at least want to break even on the off periods. Because if you're already losing, you're dipping your reserves, and if you do sell water in summertime, you're not making it because you're going back and putting it back in your reserves.
So this is the first year that we're back doing that?
Well, no, we've lost 1.2 of the last 2 years. And I went back on the water side, and Bob didn't do. He did it 4 or 5 years ago, and then before that was somebody else. But I went back and pulled our audits, water system only, back to 2003. And every year out since 2003, we've lost money all but 2 years. And it would be, I mean, 50,000, or some years it was $200,000, $300,000 a year.
But we always waited 2 years, to catch up and to.
Yeah, it's usually 3 years, and we've been averaging, overall, per thousand would go up by 3%, 5%. Last year it was 12. That was just basically to get the sell bonds, so the water went the same as the sewer went. So, but we hadn't been doing any improvements, hadn't had any money built up, so we've been actually pulling money out of the bank and pay bills. point now, you know, we may not make this year, we don't get rate increase. You know, it's, you just never know. And we're sitting here waiting on a major, you know, repair cost coming up, so.
Anybody else have anything for that? I think anybody that lives in the city of Evanston, Magnolia, at any given time can call Russell or Robert, and they'll gladly tour you the plants and show you what they're dealing with. I'm just like the other council people said, we don't wanna have a rate increase, but go out there and look at what we're dealing with, because it's falling down around us. And I wish we didn't have to, but when Robert brought this to my attention in January, if I sat here till December and I didn't bring it to the citizens' attention, look where I'd be. That's why we brought it to the public's attention. Any questions that you have after the council meeting, catch any councilman, this will be on its second reading next Monday. That gives everyone in town time to call us, talk to us, we'll gladly show you what we're dealing with. But I agree with Councilman Talbot, we can't sit down and let this fall down around us. Because we've gotta have water, we've gotta get rid of it once we use it. There's other things in my home personally, cable TV and cell phone bills. I can do without those, but I can't do without this. Does anybody have anything else for Mr. Baxter?
You might mention that Jamie's got a Banner blog there. She's got pictures of the water plant this street, and I'm not sure when she'll
I'm
be.
doing the wastewater, it'll be up tomorrow.
Okay, so somebody go to the Banner News website, go to the blog, and you see, right now, you see all the water plant pictures she took the other day, and a description of everything, and she'll have the wastewater, so. So you can sit at home and look at it, so.
Bob, if the council does nothing, what's the outcome?
Well, if the council does nothing, I figure you'll have enough money to pay for the $1 million bond. I mean, $1 million bond is already a done deal. But they won't have, I mean, Robert's got to have some stuff painted, or they'll be out of compliance with the health department. And that, belt press at the sludge plant, they'll be out of compliance. If you don't do anything, I would venture to say that in this time next year, the state will have come in and set a rate. And you won't be able to vote on it. You won't have a thing to say about it.
I met those people, and it's a very true statement. I would encourage the council to field calls from your people. We want the citizens to be aware of what's going on. That's why, as I told Robert and Russell both today, we're trying to turn every stone over to make sure we cover our bases on this. Because I don't want to see another rate increase for 6 more years. I don't want to have to come back in a year or two. I just don't see that we have a major break, folks, we're in trouble. How are we gonna pay for it?
And I do want to add that I've been working real close with Debbie on city treasurer, and I think we've got a chart of accounts and an accounting system now where they can keep up with the expenditures on a monthly basis, and we'll be able to tell where we stand on a regular basis. Keep it under our thumb a little bit better than what it's been in the past. We've got a system for tracking, okay, these are not only our cash expenses, but these are the total cash expenditures that we're needing, and these are our projected cash needs. So if that makes you feel any better.
I would appreciate any reasonable suggestions from my ward or any other ward somebody might have. I think careful, smart statements, but reasonable statements, suggestions, we would greatly appreciate. Call my number on it. I know it's informative.
And this rate increase will eliminate the scheduled rate increases that we do every 3 years for the bond.
I'm gonna be hesitant to say, this rate increase is gonna eliminate anything. This rate increase is gonna put you where you need to be to cover your bond indebtedness and to be able to do maintenance on your existing equipment, as we said, it's 20 plus years old. I think it needs to be looked at least annually, and the way the accounting is set up, it could be looked at more often, I think, readily, easily,
Yeah.
to keep a handle on it. But to say it would eliminate, I can't.
How the bond system works. It's scheduled every 3 years.
No, the bonds,
No, I mean, the rate, our rate increases have been based on every 2 or 3 years.
That's how often it's been looked at.
Right.
That's right.
But we'll continue to look at it even after this rate increase.
Yes. I would encourage you to look at it at least annually, if not more often.
We're gonna look at it more often. Next week, Kerry Smith will be here, Stevens. Bob, if you or Andy both would be able to come next week, I would appreciate that. But Kerry couldn't be here tonight, he's with another city. But he'll be here next week to answer any questions that we might have. Is there any other questions, council?
One simple, collections, and is that a